Thanks for joining us here on the Retirement Income Source, where it's always going to be about investing for income the old-fashioned way. I'm Tim Sparks. Our show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group, a financial firm right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, serving Lexington, Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, and northern and central Kentucky. This show is for you, the listener. What I teach you here on this show is based on my 20-year experience of what to do and, most importantly, what not to do. Whether you're a pre-retiree who wants to get it right or a retiree who wants to retire and end well, then I would definitely listen to this show today. And every show that we talk about, we are on YouTube. I've been on YouTube now for the last 4 or 5 months. You can subscribe to that and get different various talks about retirement planning if you're a visual. I also have this radio show. It's archived on our website, www.sparksfg, which is financialgroup.com. You can go there and listen to that. We also give away information here on the radio show, very interesting commission reports about everything we talk about. I think are very informative. A lot of things is just about being informed, but most importantly, we have to, in order to be informed, we have to be willing to take some time to learn it, right? And, we always say you want to be diligent. When it comes to retirement planning, how many financial advisors or even yourself does it take to mess up a retirement plan? How many? Just one time. Why? Because you don't know the future, and neither do I. And that's why I like investing for income, because believe it or not, in the next 12 months, I can pull up our clients' statements and tell them how much real income they're going to receive. And I can also pull up their statements where they're currently at if we're doing an analysis, and also show them how much income they are getting. You got to keep in mind there is 2 ways you get a return on your portfolio. The 2 ways, and that is it. Income plus growth equals total return. Income is a form of interest and dividends or paid to you. It's the bird in the hand approach. It's the one that Warren Buffett catapulted his wealth. And keep in mind, he started just exactly like all of us did when we started saving and putting back money. Obviously, he's a multi-billionaire now, but he still has his core investments in income instruments. I know I say that a lot, but I want to continue to bring that up. Yes, a lot of us may not have accumulated the wealth that he did, but one thing he did do, what I admire him on, is he didn't do what everybody else does. He didn't go out there and invest money like everybody else does. And to be quite honest with you, keep in mind, I've been guilty of this too. So I'm not saying something to you that I'm also telling myself. I'm pointing the finger at me as if I'm looking in the mirror, because we all think we know something until we get apprised of something else different, maybe even better, or we don't even know it's better yet, but we just kind of shrug our nose at it and assume it's not, or maybe shortcut it and go to our advisor and ask him, hey, this guy keeps talking about dividends on the radio show, and unfortunately the response is always going to be the same. That's a kind of a question with kind of a threat to the advisor, and so they're obviously going to give you a very smooth, intelligent answer that is somewhat okay, but not exactly what I'm talking about and what I have experienced with our clients. Because I've had clients come in and tell me that they told their advisor that, and again, this is not me critiquing advisors. Keep in mind, I have my philosophy, they have their philosophy. It's really up to you, the investor that's a retiree or a pre-retiree, to decide which philosophy makes the most sense. But I would encourage you to really look at the dividend and the income first method, because the income dividend method pays income in any environment, whether in a volatile environment. Keep that in mind. In a volatile environment, you still get income from the portfolio. It doesn't change. Most people, that's where the first myth that they think is when their balances drop on their portfolio. Again, this is just because we don't know what we don't know. When the balances drop does not mean that the income that you had originally, that you started off with, assuming you're investing income the way we're talking about, getting 4, 5, or 6% of your balance each and every year coming to you going forward in the next 12 months, it's much more reliable than it is to take an income from the growth component, which is totally unreliable. And not only that, you're running the risk because you are absolutely spending principal, and you're doing it every time you take a monthly paycheck. And not only that, you're reducing it by your principal on that payment. That income payment is paid to you. Most people do income payments from their portfolio monthly. About 60, 70, sometimes 80% of that money is coming to you from your own money. You're not earning money on that. You're actually selling principal to come up with that income. And we think that that is very, very dangerous. And this is, I can see the reason why people are really concerned about running out of money before they run out of breath. Because see, if you're not spending your principal, you still have an inflation hedge. If you are spending your principal, you got to hope that the markets or the wind is going to continue to stay at your back and the bicycle is going downhill. That's an easy retirement plan, but unfortunately, you don't know if that's going to happen. That's an unknown. That's a 50-50 shot. Do I feel lucky? So if you want to know if there is if you're missing out, and you really are, you're missing out. 99% of the portfolios we see, just run across one just the other day that actually was getting dividends. I really don't know to what level. We didn't really get that far in the conversation, but if you can get a custom portfolio that's providing you dividends and interest, while you're simultaneously taking advantage of being in the very environment that you need to be able to combat inflation, that's killing two birds with one stone. And then I want to let you know about a phone call that you can make, 888-930-1080. Again, it's 888-930-1080. And you can call the office and schedule what we call a retirement risk review. Now, retirement is the retirement part of the risk review. The description of this report is, do you have enough income coming in or are you leaving money on table? There's a distinct difference, and this is the first thing you will learn if you're one of those that wants to, skip the chase and reading the information. Then I would encourage you to call. And reason why, because there is a difference every time that we actually uncover this and unpack this for people that call it, that take us up on that offer. You don't have to make a change. You just really are just browsing, so to speak, to see what is the distinct difference. Also, this retirement risk review goes beyond that scope. The retirement risk review uncovers how the fees that you're paying internally on the instruments you're using, and you may be even paying an additional fee to your advisor. You may be paying two sets of fees, and sometimes people find that is also needed. They want to know because they really didn't know there was two types of fees. So that's what it's going to uncover. Also, what it's going to uncover is if you have contractual instruments or not. Again, 99% of the people out there don't have contractual instruments, and the biggest reason why, because most advisors have to really hire a very expensive analyst to be able to provide this type of advice. That's what the retirement risk review does. It helps you to be able to know if contractual instruments are for you, because those are more conservative. And as I've said in the past show, you can go back to last week's show, I talk about how to determine real income and how long it's going to last in an actual bond and the total return. You'll be shocked to know that it is much superior to bond funds or bond ETFs. Actually, there's not even They're not even a close second. They're like way below that. And most people got their money in those. And if there's anything that people ought to be at least switching gears from, is at least getting out of those bond funds and getting in real securities, because you don't really own real securities. The mutual fund does. And so you're just riding on the coattails of something that's really unreliable. And not only that, the returns on that income is also unreliable. It will change as the interest rate environment changes. And not only that, you're taking a pay cut, unfortunately, from the income perspective. That's the whole point of bonds. But so the retirement risk review also determines how much real risk you are taking. In other words, we stress test it to tell you how much risk you're taking. That's extremely important, because you may find out that your portfolio, even though it's been doing very well, keep in mind, if you made 25% last year on your portfolio, by year end, you're taking a lot of risk, and you may not know that. See, you can reduce your risk and then still have a very respectable return on your money. And a lot of people don't really realize that. You got to keep in mind, if you're spending principal, you're already increasing your risk, let alone actually having to sell shares in an up or down market. To me, that doesn't even make sense either. So that commission report or that retirement risk review is something that you can just reach out and actually do. And if you would like to know more about income first methods, before we start talking about what we're going to talk about the next 3 quarters of this show, and you want to know income first methods to utilize, then I want to offer you my book, Retirement Income Shift: How to Get the Most Mileage Out of Your Money by Using Income First Methods, Common Sense Retirement. Then this book was Amazon bestseller for the last 3.5 months in 6 categories. The Amazon bestseller, 6 categories of personal finance. And I got a free copy for the first 5 callers of today, Retirement Income Source. Call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this book out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers. Free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. When we come back, we're going to unpack what we're going to talk about today, and it's going to bleed into fall and show as well, because there's a lot of information when it comes to estate planning. But today, I named this show the Fallacies of Estate Planning. And as I promised before, I will be bringing these to you about once every 4 to 6 weeks. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source. I'll be right back. We're back. This is the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks, and today's show is brought to you from Sparks Financial Group, a firm located here in the heart of Bluegrass Selection, Kentucky, serving northern Kentucky, central Kentucky, and Louisville, Kentucky. And today we're talking about the fallacies of estate planning. Well, when it comes to estate planning, and I know I'm a financial advisor, I'm not an attorney, but the definition of an estate plan really encompasses 3 professions. One of them is a financial advisor, the other one is a CPA or an accountant, and the third is an estate planning attorney. Whenever you have all 3 and they're working incongruent for your best interest, then you got a marriage made in heaven. But the definition of estate planning is accumulation, preservation, and distribution of your assets. The third is the most common of estate planning. Accumulation is what we do, and preservation is what we do. And why that's important when it comes to really just an estate plan in of itself on the financial end is because most people that we run across want to have all the income they can have. They want to have all the growth they can have of their portfolio, and they want to leave more than they started with in their portfolio. They hope their house doubles or triples in value by the time they pass away and their spouse passes away. And all of this is going to go to their children. Well, unfortunately, that's an ideal scenario. And unfortunately, we all know that that may or may not happen. Preservation really just depends, in my opinion, on how you invest your money. There's many ways that you can invest your money and really run the risk of never being able to preserve your capital. It depends on the type of instruments you use. And for example, I know there's advice given today where people have way more in annuities than they do in stocks and bonds. That's because the type of firm you're working with, their focus is more on annuities and than it is in stocks and bonds. I don't have a problem with annuities. I mean, I'm at the end of the day, I'm very neutral on annuities because it's not my retirement plan that I'm trying to solve. If I'm putting a retirement plan for the best interest of our clients, then I want them to choose and pick and tell me what they want, not necessarily me. I have to be completely unbiased. But annuities can also hurt your preservation if they don't earn the money you need. You got some annuities that have fees. And we all know, we probably read about them, but sometimes people think all annuities have fees, and that's not true. There's only one annuity that really has fees that everybody reads about, and even probably seen the gentleman on television talk about and he hates annuities, and the reason why he hates them is because he's talking about this particular annuity. But there's three other annuities that he's not talking about because those three types of annuities, two of those three don't have any fees. One of those three is a fee comes by choice. So, and that's, again, I know most of you may think about annuities. I've done enough research on annuities, and again, the show's not about annuities. It's about policies of estate planning, and we're going to unpack that as we go throughout this show today, and again next week as well. So stay tuned for that. But I'm talking about preservation of capital because that's part of an estate plan. If you want to preserve your capital, you can be too heavy into annuities. Annuities are okay with some of your money, but not all of your money. And I will tell you, for most of you out there that have too much in annuities, and if you have purchased too much in your annuity, in other words, there's more money there than there is in the market. I know you're probably scared of the market, but at the end of the day, you're going to have a real struggle keeping up with inflation using those instruments. I really don't care what you've been showed or if you were encouraged to buy those and because somebody was using a software tool and they displayed this big plan to you and looks like everything is going to work out for you exactly the way you thought it was going to. And unfortunately, you can manipulate a software tool to do whatever, to tell the client what they want to hear versus what they're going to actually get. And so you have to be very careful with that. And so, but from an income perspective, annuities you can't beat. And I did say from an income perspective because that's really what annuities were created for. But if you utilize an annuity for the purpose of income, whatever portion of the money you put in that instrument will more than likely not be will not be preserved for the purpose of leaving an estate plan. Yes, there may be money down the road, but when you get about 15, 18 years out, it more likely will not be. Variable annuities are the fee annuities. They're the ones that are the most expensive. And again, we're still talking about preservation. I haven't even went into policies, and pardon me for that. And the reason why is because I want to talk a little bit about preservation, because preservation is important. As a matter of fact, it's what you do now, but before you check out, is your retirement plan. This is why you saved your money. What you leave behind equally is important, but in order to do that, you got to be able to know what instruments you use to be able to get you there. so that way you can have your cake and eat it too. There's some people out there, it may not matter how much they leave to their family and their children, but a lot of people we run into really do want to leave money behind to their kids. And so preservation is all about the right tools. If you're going to have an income plan, get dividends that have stocks, or stocks pay dividends. So you get income, and you also will have a higher probability of beating inflation if you do it and do it correctly, because that is one of the few vehicles out there besides real estate that can actually do it. Not gold. Gold is a pet rock. It doesn't pay income. It's not an inflationary tool. It's really more of a hedge against the amount of spending we're doing right now in this country than it is anything. And sure, gold has went up, but again, you can spend gold, but unfortunately you got to sell the shares in order to be able to create a paycheck. And to me, that's not the right vehicle for the purpose of income. So if you would want to know more about preservation, then call our office at 888-930-1080 and set up a phone call with myself, and we'll do a retirement risk review, and we can show you the most truest way to preserve your capital as we segue into estate planning. And the biggest reason why you want to know that is because you can have your cake and eat it too, or at least have a fighting chance. And that's what it's all about, right? But unfortunately, people are not using true preservation tools today because they're not even income centric. They're more growth centric, and you have to sell growth in order to create income. We're talking about getting income and not selling the growth potential because of how the I and the G works, income and growth. So again, if you want to know more of how to do that, call our office at 888-930-1080. This is the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and today we're talking about fallacies of estate planning. I know I have talked a little bit about preservation and so forth, and also why income investing is the best way to preserve capital, because preservation has everything to do with how really it's a fallacy of estate planning, because to some degree, if you run out of assets, you kind of wasted money on an estate plan, because you're going to be getting, either trust documents or will documents or whatever, because you ain't going to have anything left other than maybe your home. And even that you could run the risk if you didn't do proper estate planning. So the fallacies is about while you're in retirement, taking income, enjoying your retirement, and preserving it so that you, and what we do is we help people and show them how to do that. But today's show is based on my research, experience with my own estate plan, what my dad has taught me. You see, you can experience it with clients as well. And I've been doing this for now 20 years, and I've heard every kind of story there is. I'd be on the show here for the next 10 hours just telling you as many stories that I've heard, both good and bad, about estate planning. And I kind of decipher between the two. I'm a self-taught type. I don't know about you, but that's me. When I want to know something, or if it's regarding my profession, I'm going to go at it like a pit bull and try to find out all I need to know. Why? Because people rely on me to some degree. And not only that, I'm one of the pillars of and professions that you need to be able to get you to this point of an estate plan that winds up working out exactly the way you want it to work out. But even though I found out that things are fallacies, I've also backed them up with well-known top estate planning attorneys. That's crucial. I don't just sit here and just take things like a grain of salt. I go beyond that. I want to know what separates the top attorneys from the majority of the attorneys. And I know there's probably estate planning attorneys that will probably listen to this show. And this is nothing against attorneys, great people and all that. But I do know about 80 to 90%, and this is going by the top estate planning attorneys that I have talked to, says that most attorneys don't even recommend certain things that should be done properly in an estate plan And most people think that then when they walk away that it is complete when it's really incomplete. And that's coming from them. So again, I'm not an attorney, but that's coming from them. So I'm going to share with you a lot of those things that I have learned. Now, for the sake of disclosure, I am not an attorney. This doesn't mean you have a problem either with your existing plan. But the thing is, though, you want to make sure you pay attention. Maybe there's something here that is worthy of bringing up. Again, they're the legal profession. They're the one that should be telling you whether you got the great plan or not, the one that I'm going to be talking about throughout this show. So if you want to know more about income first methods, as we dive in the second half of this show on the fallacies of retirement, fallacies of estate planning, I want to get in your hands a great book, Retirement Income Shift, written by your host, Tim Sparks, How to Get the Most Mileage Out of Your Money, Amazon bestseller in personal finance in the last 3 months. And that you will learn strategies or income first, and it allows you to preserve your capital. I got a free copy for the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source, 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this book out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers, free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks. We'll be back with more. You're dialed in to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and our show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group, a financial firm right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, serving Lexington, Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, and Central and Louisville, Kentucky. And we're talking about the fallacies of estate planning. And I always want to dive deep when I start talking about something, especially when it comes to preservation. Preservation going forward, and you're actually using market-based investments, it's really going to be a challenge for you because every day, everything is going to be on your type of retirement plan, which is what we call an engineered withdrawal plan, is going to be dependent upon what the markets do. Why? Because you're spending principal, so you have to make that principal back up in the form of growth. And if you don't get the growth you need, unfortunately, you're going to slowly but surely, this is going to turn into more of a cancerous situation to where your balance is going to continue to diminish over time. And, when we're talking about fallacies of estate planning, to me, that's, you're set up, basically, and you're teeing your portfolio up to where it's not even going to be preserved at all, to the point where you may run through all your assets when you could have otherwise, by different choices of different tools that are best suited for a retirement plan, you could have actually use more income-centric instruments first. That way, when the markets do, and by the way, the markets will, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, the markets actually turn south and could stay down for 2 or 3 years like they did early 2000. 3 straight years, the market went down almost 50%, top to bottom, from the time when they reached their all-time high in 1999 and their all-time low in 2002 going into 2003. For 3 straight years, the markets progressively went down. So in other words, it took 4.5 years to recover that. And keep in mind, if you run into any of those in that scenario, taking out withdrawals of your portfolio, then you're actually adding to the problem. Why? Because the portfolio dropped 50%, and that was a 7-year recovery with no growth. So that means if you were taking out 5% a year, you were withdrawing 35% of your account at the same time. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket mental heavyweight to understand that doesn't even make sense at all. And I know some people think that that kind of market condition will never happen again. Well, I got some bad news for you. It's actually happened, 22 different times in the last 100 plus years. There's information out there that most people are not even privy to. Even if you go online, a lot of times the analysis may go back to 1929 when you can actually go back prior to that. And and you'll see a repeated cycle to some degree where the markets had recessionary periods where there was no growth for on average of 22 years on average till now. No growth. Think about that for a moment. No growth. In other words, anybody was to go through that type of market condition is going to, eventually run out of money, or their money is going to be depleted. And not only that, they may, if I met some people that will just basically cut their spending down. Well, I don't know about you, but retirement shouldn't be about cutting your spending down. It should be about keeping your spending the same way. And if you want to keep your spending the same way, then you want to be able to have income first instruments, because that's really the only way you can do that, to be able to combat those times when the markets actually don't run in your favor like you hoped. And I'm really getting to the fallacies of estate planning, but like I told you, there's a lot to know about estate planning, fallacies of estate planning. It encompasses a financial advisor, estate attorney, and also a good tax advisor as well. You marry those three in order to create the plan you need, because all three of them you're going to be challenged with going forward. Well, to me, the estate plan, the preservation plan of your capital will depend on how you invest your money. And especially for those of you that need income, let's just say you retire at age 65, and let's just say you need your money for 30 years. That takes you to age 95. You may not live to age 95, but it's good to have, let's just say, a hypothetical 30-year retirement plan. You want to know what what that portfolio has a chance of doing, and if your income is something you actually do need in retirement. I very seldom ever run across somebody, maybe 1 out of 20 people, that don't need income from their portfolio in retirement. Majority of people that we talk to do, so I'm just assuming you were one of them. Then you want to be able to invest for income, and that way, when you get to tipsy-turvy or the noise out there, I mean, think about all the noises out there. I mean, it's either politics or social media. Tell one guy says this, one lady says that. And everybody has all of these things going on in their mind, and it becomes, you don't know what to trust or what to believe, when in theory the markets just keep on plucking right along. Some people say, and of course we're in a time right now where everybody wants the next best thing, right? So that way we can ultimately make a ton of money. Well, those are Vegas style like type retirement solutions, and those won't work. You can't put your money in Bitcoin and expect to make a big paycheck. You may get lucky, but that shouldn't be for the purpose of retirement planning. You shouldn't be putting your money in this instrument or that instrument or anything you read. You want good, sound investing, and investing that will generate income year in, year out. Here's the good news. You don't have to worry about how to do it. Call our office. You can actually learn how to do that. I provide a book on how to do that, and you have to have an analyst to do that. A financial advisor may luck out and put you in instruments, or if you're a type of guy that don't like to pay a financial advisor, you can luck out and find some instruments that can pay you income, but not at the level as somebody that's all they do. I mean, I'm never going to entrust my money with my best friend that's done very well with money, compared to an analyst that's all they do. I mean, think about it for a moment. This is my money here. I've got to make the right decision. And especially when it comes to preservation of capital, and simultaneously trying to get the income I need and beat inflation all at the same time. That's a tall order, people. So if you want to know if you're on track to kill two birds with one stone, you got increase your paychecks in your portfolio. You can do that with stocks. You can do that with bonds. 99% of the portfolios come in are actually taking a pay cut in retirement, and I don't understand why. This retirement risk review will be very helpful and useful for you if you just call our office. You don't have to choose our services. All you got to do is just call the office, and we can actually do a phone appointment, and actually may lead into an office appointment if you think the phone appointment was worth having, going further than that. And we'll do a retirement risk review, and we can uncover some of those things to see if you're leaving money on the table. And you can get that report by calling 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source, and today we're talking about policies of estate planning, and we're on the preservation part right now because that has a lot to do with how you invest your money, and also to have the enjoyable retirement that you want and make it stress-free. I'm Tim Sparks, and I'm your host of this show. I've been doing this show now for 4.5 years, and what I have found is when people call in, they may have heard it one time. I've had other people that primarily listens to this every week. Then eventually they call in the show. Right now, we are really backlogged with appointments, not just from the radio show, but from other talks that I do here in Lexington. And I'm really getting really busy to the point where sometimes we could be 2, 3, or 4 weeks out before I can even meet with somebody. And that's a great problem to have. So what I'm boasting about here is the fact that this message must be really resonating with people, because I know it works, and that's the whole goal here. Because this is not my retirement plan. All I'm doing is basically sharing with you what to do, and most importantly, what not to do in retirement. And if I can get more income and increase my income and spend less on my principal, I don't know about you, I have to get more mileage out of my money. And how you get more mileage is you got to turn your investments into more of an income part. And these tools, these type of investments are out there that can actually do that. And trying to do this on your own is going to be a big struggle. And I know I've had people, sometimes they'll call in and say, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. But you're not doing it at the level of what our clients would do. But I don't want to argue with them. I'm not going to argue with them. And it's good, or at least it's working out for them. I'm glad of that. But we do it on an institutional level. We can do it because our firm is very large. We work with Fidelity and work with Charles Schwab. And whenever we go in and when we invest money in corporate bonds, for example, we can go in with a certain amount of capital and be able to sometimes get better rates. Well, also, there's tools out there, Bloomberg terminals and stuff like that we can utilize that you, the retail investor, don't have. And a lot of times you may pay more for the same bond. We can get actually sometimes lesser cost. That's extremely important because that has something to do with how much gain you're going to get on the back end. For sometimes education, experience, and somebody that specializes in something can actually pay you back more than what it costed you, even though you may even have an income, somewhat of an income plan, because it does require, a certain specialization. You have to know whether that company is the right company. There's particular government bonds out there, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac bonds that run some risk as far as devaluing, because those type of bonds are, 10, 15, or 30 years primarily. And the biggest negative with those type of bonds is people refinance quite often. And when they refinance, those type of bonds can be affected to some degree. And so they don't have much, you don't get much appreciation from those. If anything, you can also may have to sell at a loss if you're not careful. That's the reason why I don't really like those type. They may be kind of somewhat safe, and that's fine, but you may be stuck in them long term for the whole period just to get your money back. And to me, that's interest rate risk and inflation risk. I wouldn't do that. So, as the old saying is, we pay for what we get sometimes. And I get it. I understand, I think a lot of the reason why people don't like to pay a fee is just because, they've tried that several times, and then they kind of compare that to their own self, and they kind of felt like that they were doing better. Keep in mind, performance is not judged always by, you switching gears and going on your own. You might have lost money from the financial advisor and you were paying a fee, and then you moved over and tried to do it on your own, and then you just by accident, and the word accident, you just happened to put it in when the markets were down on the way up. You could, if you would just stayed put, you would have actually seen the same uptick in the market. And the markets don't go up and go down not because of something the financial advisor does or I do or anybody else does, or even including what you do, or the type of instruments you choose. It doesn't matter what quality, 5-star or whatever, you still are running the risk that you're having to spend principal. Because I know people that actually do this, that have a sizable amount of portfolio, and believe it or not, that they probably don't see this, but they're actually still. I know a gentleman that's got $3 million in the retirement portfolio, and he has taken out about $170,000 a year, when 120 of it is his own principal, even though he is saving on fees. And to be quite honest with you, I really hope it works out. I hope the markets will continue to go up for him, because that's really the only way he's going to be able to see the result that he's hoping by saving money on the fee. I just don't want to run that risk, because I'm realistic. I think the markets have a tendency to go both directions. And then what are you going to do if they stay down and stay considerably down for several years? Then what is going to be your plan? And so income is better and more superior during down markets, and that's extremely important to know. So part of policies of estate planning is the preservation part, and that's where I'm putting a little focus here as we segue into other segments of a policy of estate planning. And this show is going to be continued again next week on the same subject. It'll be just policies of estate planning part 2. But I want to get you a great book, The Retirement Income Shift, in your hand, the Amazon bestseller for personal finance. And it can be yours if you call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers. Free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. When we come back, we're going to start entering in some parts of the estate planning, and also mention to you an estate planning that is unheard of out there called digital estate planning that we share as an option to our clients, and we're going to talk more about that in a few minutes. This is Tim Sparks. We'll be right back. We're back. You're locked in to the Retirement Income Source of Tim Sparks. Our show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky, serving both Louisville, Northern Kentucky, and Central Kentucky. And today we're talking about the fallacies of estate planning. And you really want to pay attention to this because, at the end of the day, and actually, we're actually doing courses, estate planning courses here in Lexington, and I'm doing 20 events this year, and you're welcome to call in if you want to and sign up for one of those, where you can actually see that in person. And it's an eye opener. We just had our first one this past Thursday, and had a full house, and had quite many people sign up for a free consultation to learn about digital estate planning. To me, I think is going to revolutionize estate planning because people want more control, and they can get that control with one flat fee. And, there's really nothing wrong with estate planning today other than I have found there's a lot of policies, and I've actually shared some of those policies with you, over the last couple months with other shows similar. But today on this show and next week's show, I'm actually going to start going into more deeper things that you need to know of why a financial power of attorney is extremely important, a healthcare power of attorney, advance directives, living wills, what they are applicable to, things you need to think about you didn't think about. There is 3 types of estate plans today that I have found, and those estate plans is the state of Kentucky. They have one for you. Everybody has an estate plan. That's the good news. State of Kentucky has one for the ones that choose not to do one. You have a will, that's for the ones that wants to do the cheap route. And then you got a trust. And so, at the end of the day, what is the outcome from any of those 3? Well, a will guarantees probate. And if you do nothing, you're going through probate. And a trust can also go through probate, which is kind of the reason that I have actually decided to do my homework. Like I said, I'm self-taught. I want to go deeper. I want to find out why we've had clients that have had the trust, had all the documents, had everything in place, and still went into some portion of probate after the first death. And it winds up being pretty expensive. I mean, if you think about it for a moment, the whole purpose of avoiding probate is to have a trust. But you may think you have avoided it just because you picked it up, it's signed, sealed, delivered, witnessed and all, but you may not be avoiding probate at all. It depends on a particular funding. In other words, did you assign the assets? And it goes beyond that. And a lot of times, or at least the attorneys we work with, that I think are astounding or top-notch, tells me that most attorneys typically about 85 to 90% in their experience do not even fund the trust. I'm not talking about funding the trust like you fund your bank accounts. I'm talking about something beyond that. And so today I'm going to give you an opportunity to have a free consultation to learn about a digital estate plan. I'm going to go into more of that later of what digital is compared to these other 3. And it's really the same thing. It's digitized. It's different. And the one flat fee is extremely important. They have the same kind of documents. Only difference is you have 100% control. You say you don't have control if it's done by an attorney. And what I mean is, yes, you may have control of the book, but you don't have necessarily control if things change that needs to be amended to that trust. And that's what I mean. So you have to have somebody go in and update that. And if you have an attorney firm that's actually doing it, great, kudos for you and kudos for the attorney that's actually doing that. But this is some of the policies I've actually seen. And, again, if you want that free consultation, you can call 888-930-1080. Again, I'm a self-taught type guy. And, I have dug deep and I have found, a lot of fallacies with, estate planning. Keep in mind, I was a novice. I was as naive as anybody else. A lot of times people don't even know if they need an estate plan till it's too late. And then they are on the state of Kentucky's plan. Just talk for those of you that are, unless you're living in another state and you're driving by it, and you're listening to our show and you live in another state, doesn't really matter. Whatever state you live in is where your estate plan is going to be delivered to you because you decided you didn't know which was best for you, or you procrastinated, you put it off, and then you wind up getting the state's plan instead. I can tell you right now, and based on my experience, I think all of us, if we knew enough to be able to make a good decision, I don't think that would be the one that you would choose. Because now it's government intervention. They get to make that choice on what happens. Not only that, keep in mind, people, the state plan, the one that they do, or if you have a will, it can be costly. Just ask any attorney. Look it up. I mean, I've seen cost. They tell me up to 5% of your non-beneficiary-driven assets. These are your home, your rental properties, your second home, your checking accounts, your savings accounts. And we're going to debunk joint tenancy because some people use those strategies. You got to know why you shouldn't use those strategies, why you should be using an IRA inheritance trust for your IRAs. We can give you 10 reasons why you don't want to leave, and this is, again, based on our attorney's advice by utilizing this trust. Anybody that if they was to call their estate attorney and ask them what that is, they can validate what I'm saying here. But this is exactly what comes along for the ride for our clients. And an IRA inheritance trust is very valuable because it's a way I can put a control valve on how much my kids are going to get at my passing. And yes, there's a 10-year spin down. You got to eliminate it in 10 years. But, one thing that I can tell you about an IRA is it will be spent in 18 months. Almost 80% of all estates that are passed down to the kids are spent in 18 months. Imagine, that's a big number. Anytime you leave a big amount of money to somebody they didn't earn, they didn't save, they didn't protect, a lot of times that's like a lottery to them. They're going to spend it. Well, you know what? I'm going to put a control valve because I've got some spenders and called children, and I'm going to put a control valve there. And so with that being said, we have come up at the end of this show, but stay tuned. We're going to talk a lot about everything this next week, why it's extremely important to to have the proper plan and also to give you control. But I want to offer you our book one more time. Again, this book is free, no obligation, Retirement Income Shift. It can be yours if you're one of the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source. Amazon bestseller for the last 3.5 months since its release in personal finance. And again, first 5 callers, 888-930-1080. 888-930-1080. And you will learn how to preserve your money and have income simultaneously and have a chance to beat inflation all at the same time. That's a tall order. Keep in mind, estate planning is about preservation, and that's a fallacy. You can, if you didn't listen, you're just now tuning in, go back and listen to the earlier part of the show as we give you the reasons why. We appreciate you listening today. I hope this information was beneficial. Again, we're going to carry this baton again next week for more information. Thank you for listening to the Retirement Income Source of Tim Sparks. We'll be back again next week.